Hey friends, this is Nate Nims joining you from Grace Des Moines. Thank you for being with us today. This is our Spiritual Practice Thursday where we look at different traditions and methods of connecting with our faith. And today we're going to talk about the works of mercy. And so to get us started for that, I want to read to you something from Amos. Amos is one of the minor prophets, and the minor prophets in the Hebrew scriptures are not called minor because they're insignificant. They're called minor because they are shorter than the books of, say, Isaiah. So the prophet Amos writes this in chapter 5. I hate your festivals. I reject your joyous assemblies. If you bring me entirely burned offerings of gifts, I will not be pleased. I won't look at your offerings of well-fed animals. Take away the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. You might know that passage from the works of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, right? It's engraved in Washington, D.C. on his statue. It is one of those iconic phrases that righteousness should flow like a stream. And John Wesley wrote of this passage in Amos and of the charity, of the mercy that we're supposed to live with by saying this. John Wesley wrote that whenever, therefore, one interferes with works of mercy are preferred over works of piety. Even reading, hearing, and prayer are to be omitted or postponed at charity's almighty call. John Wesley sought a faith and a way of life that put others' needs in a primary position. In the Methodist tradition, we hold together what we call personal piety and social holiness. There is our individual faith, the faith that enlivens us, that gives us the energy to keep moving forward. But then there's the social holiness that we do. There's the interactions that we have with the world and with one another. You can think of it a bit like the plug on your phone, and then what your phone actually does, right? You charge your battery so that you can use your phone. Your personal piety charges you up so that you can go out into the world and make a difference. And so the works of mercy, in the Catholic tradition, there are these works of mercy, and the Methodist Church, our tradition, John Wesley included these as well because they're all found in Scripture at various points. And so Wesley said we are to, and the Catholic Church has said that we are to, because Jesus said that we are to feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, clothe the naked. Those are all in Matthew 25. Jesus says, you, right? There's the two crowds, and one did this, and they said, when we did this, we didn't see you. And Jesus says, when you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. It was feeding the hungry, giving water to the thirsty, clothing the naked. And there are all sorts of ways that we can do that. Right now, if you're in our Des Moines area, DMARC could use your donations. Food drives are always helpful, but in moments like this, if you can donate monetarily, that really helps as well, because organizations such as DMARC are able to buy food with those monetary donations at a reduced rate, and that money gets stretched even further. Or water being a universal right that we all need, and making sure everyone has access to clean water. And that connection with clean water and giving water to the thirsty, that's why in 2016, Pope Francis recommended that we add care to the environment to a list of works of mercy. And that is also found throughout the scriptures. In Genesis, God tells us to take care of the earth, to be stewards of the earth, to build it up and not use it in any way that destroys. So the other works of mercy include shelter the homeless or welcome the homeless. And it's not just making sure that people have a place to stay. It's not just things like supporting the Iowa Homeless Youth Shelter or the shelter meal that our church helped provide in town last night. Those all help, and those all make a difference. And so if you want to participate in that act of mercy today, you could contribute to the Iowa Homeless Youth Center. You could call and see what kind of needs they might have. You could give monies to our account here at Grace so that we can serve the shelter meal once a month. But you can also find ways to make sure that people feel welcome, that wherever you interact with them, you provide that place of home and wholeness. The works of mercy also include caring for the sick, making sure people are comfortable and cared for in their time of need. And in this sort of pandemic age that we find ourselves in, sickness isn't just the physical symptoms, it's the emotional symptoms, it's the weight and the loneliness. And so perhaps you could participate in this work of mercy by sending somebody a letter, by giving someone a phone call, by checking in on one of your neighbors. Doing that sort of visit is a work of mercy. The works of mercy also include visiting the imprisoned. To do this is to remind ourselves that no matter what someone has done, no matter what someone has had happen to them, they are still a child of God. When Jesus begins his ministry in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus announces that he is there to bring good news to the poor and liberation to the oppressed and to the freedom to the imprisoned. There is this freedom that we can find with and for one another, and so we have to find ways to connect with the imprisoned and to help them on the way out. One way that you could do that through the United Methodist Church is by connecting with Women at the Well. That's a ministry and a church that we have at the Mitchellville Women's Facility where they worship every week and then they reconnect with communities as they go back into their homes throughout Iowa. And so if you wanted to help the imprisoned, that would be one way to do so. The next and final work of mercy in the Catholic Church on their list of 7 works of mercy is to bury the dead. Now, burying the dead was added onto later in the Catholic Church. It was not a part of their initial list, but it was added due to the age that they were living in a time of a lot of death and a tangible need in the community to take care of families and individuals by offering that service to one another. In this pandemic, we can care for each other in different ways, and thankfully our congregation has not had many deaths due to this pandemic, but we can still reach out to those friends and family members and other folks in our community and let them know that they are on our hearts and minds, that we can provide ways to make sure their loved ones know just how loved they are. So these 7 works of mercy: feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless, visit the sick, visit the imprisoned, bury the dead, and as Pope Francis has wanted to add to this list, care to the environment. These are all tangible ways that our faith comes alive. And that's what spiritual practices are all about. As it's written in the book of James, faith without works is dead. And so we've done a lot of spiritual practices about centering ourselves, about charging our batteries, about prayer. But we have to remember that our faith needs to make a difference in the world, a tangible way of changing things for ourselves and for one another. So I'd encourage you to take on at least one of those works of mercy today. How can you help make sure someone is fed, someone has clean water? How can you make sure someone is cared for and welcomed? One way or another, we can all do this. And so I thank you for being the people of grace and the people that do this work in the community, and for the ways that you continue to make a difference around our state and around our city. So take some time today and feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, clothe the naked, visit the sick, visit the imprisoned, care for someone that is grieving, and be the people that Jesus knows that we can be. Thank you for joining me today. After the video's wrapped up and I have a little more free time to move around with a cat on my lap and another on the floor, I'll add some links to the comments so you can learn more. And then this Sunday, we're going to have a really fun service. I'm going to be preaching with one of my best friends, and I really don't think you want to miss it. It is just going to be fantastic. We're having so much fun putting this service together. So I really hope that you can join us online on July 5th. And until next time, we'll see you again. Grace and peace, everyone.